Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week we are back doing a few little tweaks on Harry. So first up today, I am going to be installing the 70mm 360 degree 4K Omni dual channel dash cam into Harry. So let me just show you what this thing is all about. So with the kit, you get the 4K Omni 360 degree dash cam. You also get a rear camera. Comes with the memory card for the camera, your rear camera wiring, your trim tool, and your basic USB charger setup, and the bonus circular polarizing lens. Installation couldn't be easier. You just stick the anti-static sticker up onto the screen and then just peel and stick the camera to your desired location. You can then tilt the camera to get it in the right angle, and if you twist it, you can unclip it from the base. Don't forget to fit the SD card. The rear is the same. Fit the anti-static sticker, and it's really difficult with Harry to climb over the roll cage and get in there, but I still managed to do it. And same again, just peel and stick the rear camera and then just adjust the angle. Alright, so for wiring, you've got a few options. You've got the basic USB connection where you just plug it into the lighter and connect it up. It's all very simple and straightforward. A much better method is to use the hardwire kit. This is very simple. It's just straight 12 volts, a 12 volts from the accessory switch, and a ground. Very easy, and then plug it in. If you want to get all of the benefits of the 4K Omni, your best bet is to install the optional 4G installation kit. So if you fit a SIM card to this, then you can connect via the app and get real-time information from your car wherever you are. It will give you alerts straight to your phone if your car is bumped while you're away from it, or there's suspicious activity. It will let you know. It can rotate and follow suspicious activity and also responds to voice commands. Capture left. Capture right. And the 4K Omni stands out above its competitors with the Sony Starvis 2 sensor with 4K footage at 60 frames a second, which is perfect for capturing those number plates in those tricky situations. You also have 1080p from the rear, and the 4K Omni is also crystal clear at night with the 70mm night owl vision and the 70mm Lumi Vision Tech. So go and check out the 70mm 4K Omni dash cam, and if you use my code, the link's in the description, you can get 10% off and a free circular polarizing lens for your camera. So go and help out the guys that help out the channel, and let's get back into doing some work on Harry. Alright guys, welcome back to Home Built, and those of you who have been following for a long time know that this is Harry. This is my 1974 Porsche 911 that I started the channel with. It was a very rusty, wrecked, blown engine, very sad state car when I bought it, and I spent several years, and as like you know, the start of my channel, bring it back up to something that I would like to drive, and I have driven it. I've driven it quite a bit, and it's time for a few bits and pieces to service it, and also give you an update of where we currently stand and how Harry's actually been doing. So for starters, if I go through my my logbook that one of the viewers actually sent in to me, which is really nice in Harry's colours, and the last time I serviced it was actually March last year, and it had done 45,950 miles. I worked that out the hard way. The speedo is in kilometres an hour, but somebody's just changed the face, so the odometer is still in miles. Unfortunately, I've only done 2,800 miles in the car in the last 12 months, which seems low. I have been using Harry, but I've had Barb and the Alfa and I've been doing a bunch of other things. I haven't really done any big road trips in Harry in the last 12 months, but that is going to change. So yeah, for starters, we need to do a service on Harry, and I've got a couple of things I need to touch up, and I'll just sort of fill you in on how the rest of it is going. All right, having a look under Harry, and we have some small oil leaks coming down here. Looks like it might actually be from the chain covers, which there's one on this side, and there's something leaking up here on this side of the engine. So we have a little leak. It doesn't actually leave much in the garage. It's just a bit ugly, so we're going to get in and clean that up. The other thing that I just discovered after looking around, and somebody actually pointed out in a previous video, is we have one of the drive shaft boots that is busted. All three others are all in perfect condition. I've already had a look and they're all good. It's just that one that is damaged, so that's a job on the list. And moving forward, we also have a busted tie rod end there, and we are actually still on this car. I'm still running the old tie rod end, so that I think is another upgrade we need to start having a look at. So first things first, as I said, I drive this car hard in all weather and all conditions, and it needs a good clean, so I get in there with some degreaser and just give it a good scrub underneath. Overall, it's not too bad. As I said, it's done a lot of kilometres on this engine, and like all of these old air-cooled engines, even with a really good rebuild, eventually they do start to leak a little bit. It's just air-cooled life. So once it's all cleaned up, it's time for a quick oil change. So dropping everything out, replace the plugs with new washers, and then I can lower it back down and swap out the oil filter. For starters, we're just doing a basic oil change. I've dropped the oil, I put a new oil filter on. As far as oil goes, I am always a fan of a non-synthetic. I like this, the Penrite HPR 30, which has got a full zinc mineral oil. I think these engines are the best on it, so fight me in the comments, but this is what I'm happy with and this is what I use. Okay, so oil is topped up. What I like to do is I actually decanted all of the old oil into the used oil bottles just to get a measure of roughly what I dropped out. Because I always freak out about dry sump engines not putting enough oil in, and the fact that you have to moronically warm them up to temperature before you can check the oil level, which always sort of freaks me out. But 10 litres came out. 10 litres went back in. We are looking good so far. All right, so I just went up here and had a look to go and replace my boot for my drive shaft because I'd ordered some, and it looks like I've ordered the incorrect type. This is obviously for an earlier car, and it's the wrong diameter. This is about 96 millimeters, and these are about 110 millimeters around on this end. So I'm gonna have to send these back and leave that for now and move on to the tie rod ends up the front. So it's time to start tackling the tie rod. So first things first is to remove the bash plate that is covering up the fuel filter and of course access to the steering rack. Then we need to take off the castle nut on top of the tie rod end, and often you can loosen the tie rod end by banging the side of the tie rod. Don't hit the threaded end, but this one was being particularly stubborn, so I used a combination of a ball joint separating tool and bashing it with a hammer. Alright, so old tie rod is out, so I just had to flick off the rubber boot, and to get this out there's actually a locking nut. If you can see this here, there's a locking nut with these little lugs, and you just need to get a screwdriver in there and knock them out to turn them around and twist this loose, and then just twist the whole tie rod out. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be replacing these original tie rods with turbo tie rods. So these are more like basically every modern car, as opposed to this bizarre design that Porsche used for quite some time. So they've got like a rubber bushing in here, and this is just going to get more and more slack in as the bushing wears out over time. It would really dampen the feeling of the steering, which obviously this is a direct ball joint on the tie rod, so a much more solid piece of gear. And what we're going to do now is, before we put them in, we're going to adjust and get the length as close as we can to to the old tie rod in this before we start, so that we have an easier job later when it comes to getting the wheel alignment ready to go. So to put this back in, I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on here. Some people would like to use red. I don't like the idea of using red. I want to be able to still get this off again without using heat. Old one out, new one in with a new boot. Making sure I put the boot on before I install it in the car, because it's much easier now. So it's a simple matter of screwing the new turbo tie rod straight into the steering rack, but I found that I needed to loosen off and lower the sway bar to get access with my pliers wrench to be able to put some tension and actually tighten up the tie rod end. But with that removed, it was pretty straightforward, and then it was just moving around to the other side to do the other tie rod, which went much easier this time. Once I knew what I was doing, it was pretty straightforward. Same thing, prepare the tie rod on the ground, get them to a similar length so that when you reinstall it, it just makes life easier coming up. Then reinstalling the sway bar and the bash plate so that we're ready to lower the car and do the wheel alignment. All right, so I have the tie rod end swapped in, and now it's time to make sure the car has a wheel alignment that's looking pretty decent. I've got this basic unit. This is just a plate that sits on the ground. You adjust these little standoffs on the back so that they are touching the solid face of the wheels. And then there's just a couple of tape measures that run between them, and you measure the front and the back, and you can see the toe of the car. I'm trying to get 0 toe, so it's nice and easy. This is not a 100% wheel alignment, but this works pretty well as far as I'm concerned. All right, so now you can sort of get a bit more of an idea how this works. I've got my standoffs here on both sides, holding solid, and then if I go around to the other side of the car, you can see again they're sitting nice and solid. This is all square, and the ends of the tape measure sit in either side there. And if we come back around, you can have a look down here and see where 172 centimeters or 1721 at the front, and we're at 175 on the back. So we actually are currently towing in quite a bit. So let's lift it up and adjust the toe slightly, and we'll try it again. So this wheel alignment tool is very effective, but it's a lot of backwards and forwards, and trying to adjust it on the ground is easier, because obviously every time you lift it up and down, then you have to reset everything up, and it's just a real pain. But it is very effective, and if you take your time, you can get it quite good. All right, so after a lot of backwards and forwards getting underneath the car, I have a nice even 1741 on both sides, and also I've been using the straight edge along the tyre and just lining it up with the rear tyre to try and make sure that my steering wheel is staying straight. So straightening my steering wheel and then making sure the wheels are not just aligned with each other, but aligned front to rear, so that hopefully the wheel won't be on an angle. All right, well, we have the front end mostly wheel aligned. The next thing to do is to actually get it out on the road, do a quick drive around, and then come back and double check it, because once the suspension settles and everything. But that's when you double check everything and just do any final tweaks. But we have turbo tie rods in the car. We have the car serviced. So a bunch of people really like to know how this car is going. And now I've done about 30,000 kilometers in this car since I first built it. And a lot of those Ks are hard Ks. And overall, the car has performed really well. Like the Alfa-Rari is in a much earlier stage of shakedown. I find this car is a constant state of shakedown, and there's lots of things that I'm improving all the time, and just sort of tweaking. The the car runs fantastically. Engine-wise, it is amazing. Just working with Neil at Performance Developments and all of the bits and pieces that came together on this car is fantastic. Those following closely will have seen that I have an electronic throttle on this car, so I have cruise control, works perfectly, nice, smooth, modern cruise control. The throttle did mess me up at the Adelaide Rally a couple of years ago, where one of the linkages had come loose and the safety was coming in and just shutting the throttle down, going, the things didn't line up, and it just shut it down. So overall, that's a good thing. It's a safety thing, and it was only when it was getting really hot and I was really on it. At low driving, it was no problems. Basically, the car, touch wood, has never left me stranded. It's always been a really good, reliable car. Overall, it's great. The air conditioning, lots of people ask about the air conditioning, and as I said, I've got one of the earlier versions of the classic retrofit electric air conditioning. It's this one has 2 condensers, so I have a condenser on either side at the front. It works quite well. It's not modern car aircon. It gets super cold. The main difference being that the blower is just not great, and a lot of that is to do with my pipe work, but it's a common issue with a lot of people. I believe his newer units have got much better blowers in them, and I'm actually looking at trying to get some duct fans, so inline duct fans to help draw the air through the evaporator so that I can actually get more air into the cabin, and that's something I will be doing on round 2 of Harry. So that is something that I plan on doing in the future after the Frankenhauler. I plan on stripping down Harry and starting, not from scratch, but redoing a lot of things. So a lot of the overall look will be similar, but I want to refine it. I want to make things better. My skills have gotten a lot better since then, and yeah, it's been a great, reliable car. We've had it as a second, almost daily driver, basically, for quite some time. And yeah, it just, Mrs. Jeff would drive it to work. I've driven it to work. It's just a car that I can get in, turn the key, and it's going to run, and it's going to get there. Obviously, the last thing I did on this car was I converted it to a 993 glue-in windscreen over the standard sort of clip-in rubber trim, and it's been fantastic. And the biggest thing that I've noticed has been the wind noise has dropped significantly. So big fan of that. Overall, look, the car is great. I'm very happy with Harry, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the project on this, and when I redo it, I'll bring you guys along. I think there's going to be some fun things I'm going to do to this to really take it up to that next level. Anyway, that is definitely it for this one, so thanks for watching, and like always, do the things like subscribe and join us on Patreon to watch the videos a day before everybody else, and we'll see you on the next one. See you guys.